Indian has a really strange way of categorizing its bikes. Some bikes are listed by models, so if you look at FTR and Scout, they're listing them by models. Scout is not a cruiser, and if you jump into cruiser, you'll see some cruisers. That makes sense. Vintage seems like a cruiser, but vintage dark horse is not a cruiser, it's a dark horse. Springfield dark horse is here, but the normal version wasn't a cruiser, so it must be touring. It's a touring bike, but it's not. Perhaps because trunk is an upgrade rather than default. So Roadmaster is the only cruiser. Perhaps it's a bagger, because it's a bag. But wait, Vintage also has a bag. So why is Vintage not there? And Scout is also a cruiser just like Chief is. But Scout is not. You know what? I'm gonna tell you all about Indian bike models and how they categorize. So watch the video. Alright, well, let's start with the basics. Indian really only has 5 models. The FTR, the Scout, the newly announced Chief, the Challenger, and the rest. Scout and Challenger are really Victory, rebranded as Indians really. We'll start with FTR. Absolutely gorgeous bikes. Look beautiful with every angle. There is no worse way of looking at it. It's one of the most beautiful bikes out there. If I had money for 2 bikes, I would definitely have this as my second bike. Move on to Scout. It comes in several different flavors. You have Scout 60 with a smaller engine, Scout with a slightly bigger engine, 69 cubic feet versus 60 cubic feet. Indian also has Bobber that's slightly bobbed up with, somewhat less stuff, and then Scout 20, which gives you spoke wheels and higher handlebars. Now, that brings me to Chief. The newly announced Chief has a lot of different models, but it's really the same bike. You got Chief, Chief Dark Horse, Bobber Dark Horse, Super Chief Limited. The engines are either 111 or 116, which is going to be used in every other bike except for the Challenger. Challenger also comes in Challenger Dark Horse, Challenger Limited. Challenger Limited is basically Challenger with upgrades. Dark Horse is a different color scheme with slightly different variations. Why not? Now, this is the real part. The rest. The rest of Indian model lineup starts with the Vintage. Again, beautiful, absolutely gorgeous bike. One that I almost purchased. It has the Vintage as well as the Vintage Dark Horse. Pretty simple, straightforward stuff. But moving on beyond Vintage, you have Springfield, which is also using the same frame. Similar set of features, overlapping stuff. Springfield gives you hard locking bags, unlike the Vintage, but also has the regular versus Dark Horse theme, and Dark Horse comes with 116. The regular comes with 111, just like the Chief. But when it comes to Vintage, both regular and Dark Horse come with 111. You don't get 116 with a Vintage Dark Horse. Now, Chieftain. Chieftain is the Springfield with fairing. Chieftain also comes with limited or Dark Horse, but also has an elite version. Otherwise, it's basically Springfield with fairing and all the features that comes by having a fairing. Moving up, you get Roadmaster, and Roadmaster is really the Chieftain with the trunk. So you had Springfield with fairing, Chieftain, Springfield with fairing and a trunk, Roadmaster. Now, Roadmaster can also get hard lowers and other stuff, but really, it's the same frame, same engine, 116. Roadmaster also comes in Dark Horse, Elite, Limited, and the regular. Lastly, you have the Challenger, which is really, as I mentioned earlier, the Victory bike. It kind of stands out weirdly because it's the liquid-cooled 108 engine from Victory as opposed to the 111 or 116 air-cooled from Indian. Challenger also comes with Dark Horse or Limited, but it's basically occupies the same space as other bikes, but has fixed fairing. The fairing is fixed on the frame, so it doesn't turn when you turn the wheels. It's a little bit different about it. Gives a different feel. The handle feel slider. It's supposed to be a great bike. I've never test rode it. I actually refused to test ride it because I didn't want to be tempted by it. So there you go. Hope you found it useful.